How is everyone doing today? And in this video, we are going to be talking about specifically for Jiaoqiu when it comes to, do you really need him on your account? Because there are a bunch of factors when it comes to Jiaoqiu's kit and also the characters you may have on your account that might incentivize you into pulling Jiaoqiu. One of the main things that we do need to talk about is, of course, the viability of where he's going to be out right now and where he's going to be out later, and also looking at as well the characters on your account, because I think that's also a big push in what you need to build for. And if you have a certain type of character that you like, then that might help as well. Before we get into all that, make sure you leave a like, comment, so all the different type of stuff, and let me know if you're pulling for Jiaoqiu or if you're waiting for Fei Xiao and Ling Sha. Now, I have talked about basically every character that's surrounding Jiaoqiu for the most part when it comes to the value of them versus him, and that is in my things you should consider. This one specifically going to be about your account and also where he might be in terms of the meta right now currently and also in the future. So going into Jiaoqiu, of course, he is going to be our Nihility Fire unit, where he has some universal buffs that are really useful for a bunch of different characters. One of the main things is going to be his Ashen Rose, which is going to be increasing the damage received by the enemy by 40%, which is a pretty big deal when it comes to the amount of damage you're taking in, because that's a nasty debuff to have. And not only that, he's also going to be able to increase ultimate damage with his ultimate with the constant stream of debuffs whenever the enemy's attacks. And of course, this leads us into our first character that if you have them on your account, you may want to pull for Jiaoqiu, and that is going to be Acheron specifically, because Acheron is going to absolutely love having Jiaoqiu on the team, with not only wanting to get these marks or also the flash streams as a part of her ultimate. You're able to reach this much more faster, especially when you're going against a bunch of different enemies, because it's going to allow them to take in that Ashen Rose effect, which is not only going to give them that extra damage received, but they're also going to be getting that ultimate damage debuff, which Acheron has a fat ton of damage coming from. So you're able to give Acheron her damage for her ultimate, and you're also able to give Acheron a faster ultimate, which is going to allow them to do so much more damage. It's going to be a really good pairing for Acheron herself. And realistically, I do think of Jiaoqiu at the current moment, because I do want to bring up one point that we are going to talk about in a quick second, but I do see Jiaoqiu as a more vertical investment to the account right now versus horizontal, because realistically, for the most part, a lot of people are only going to pull for Jiaoqiu if they want to hyper invest into Acheron, because that's basically the gist of his use and how you get the full utility of his kit to be used on one character. And there's no other character in the game right now that uses it better than Acheron. So right now, he really is a vertical investment for Acheron character specifically, and when it comes to having him for other teams, it can be used, and that's what I'm going to get to in a quick second, where you can use Jiaoqiu with other teams that aren't just Acheron, but you're not going to be using the full limits of his kit for the most part. The only two characters right now that I think are going to be a big push for Jiaoqiu's debuffs are going to be someone like Yun Li, which is a pretty big character for that. Not only that, she's also a recent unit, so it might be a little bit harder to pull Yun Li and Jiaoqiu at the same time, but inner traces when it comes to her ultimate, her follow-up ultimate is actually going to be considered ultimate damage. So this is something that basically Jiaoqiu is able to give that damage received buff. He's able to give that also ultimate damage buff, which is a pretty big deal, which is a really nice thing as well for someone like Yun Li, the fact that it specifies that exactly. And then not only that, you also have someone like Argenti. His ultimate is the biggest premise of his kit, and with being able to increase damage received, with being able to give it ultimate damage buff, this helps out Argenti too. But you got to remember that we are going to be taking up a slot from someone else you could put on the team, so that's where Jiaoqiu has to fight for his spot on certain teams, and we're gonna have to see if it works the best with having Jiaoqiu there instead of someone else or another support. And let's go into the one thing I do want to talk about in regards to Jiaoqiu's worth now versus what is going to be later, is that, like I said, more likely to be a vertical investment for Acheron, specifically if you're pulling for Jiaoqiu and his ultimate debuff, and also for his regular debuffing skills and the speed at which he can do so. One of the main things that we do need to talk about as well is that Jiaoqiu most likely could be something like an early Topaz. And the reason I say this is because right now for Jiaoqiu, he's kind of only situated for one character specifically, and that's going to be Acheron. When it comes to something like Topaz and Numbi, I feel like we're going to see a trend of similar patterns of how this is going to end up. At the beginning for Topaz and Numbi, they didn't really have much to be able to get paired with, and their power was severely under lacking at the very start, and they end up becoming one of the best units in the game, specifically for the archetype, which is follow-up, where we've gotten so much support and we've gotten so many characters that really love having Topaz and Numbi on the team. This is a big buff to her, and it shows how well she's aged. Jiaoqiu could definitely be in that position just because of how universal his kit is and what potential he's able to give. Not only can he give very fast debuffs, which means that someone like Acheron, if there were to be another version of Acheron or somebody else who wants a crap ton of debuffs on the enemy, that's going to be a pretty big thing for Jiaoqiu. Not only that, Jiaoqiu gives a general damage received buff, which is going to help out every DPS in the game. And then more so often, another thing that is going to be very, very critical when it comes to Jiaoqiu and its worth in the future is if we get more characters that are very, very centered around their ultimate. I mean, they're spamming their ultimate, they're using their ultimate to get a majority of their damage out. That is their whole kit around getting their ultimate. That is going to be where Jiaoqiu shines the most. So Jiaoqiu is most likely, as time goes by, going to get value inherently just because of how broad his kit is when it comes to getting that damage received buff, which is inclusive to everything in the game. And not only that, you're able to get that ultimate damage buff, which we're always going to get more characters that are going to base their everything when it comes to their damage, their whole usability as a kit, or they're usable as a character on just their ultimate. And that is something that is not too hard to expect of. It's not like we're waiting for the next like dot trigger ultimate specific type thing, or only follow-up attacks that happen after this type of restriction. No, it's literally just ultimate damage, and then you get fast debuffs, and not only that, you get a fast Acheron roast, which is going to make it so that you're taking more damage, or they're taking more damage, which is a 40% boost, which is pretty high in my honest opinion for Jiaoqiu. So realistically, if you are pulling for Jiaoqiu right now, what you're pulling in for is Acheron. That is basically it right now. You can use them on other teams, you can use them in Young Li, you can use them with Argenti, but realistically, if you're pulling for Jiaoqiu, you are working on Acheron, and you want your Acheron to absolutely devastate everything in the game whatsoever. The plus to getting him now is not only are you building up Acheron, you're also building up whatever unit in the future really likes ultimates. And this is something that is going to be easily available to Jiaoqiu just because of how general his kit is and how easy it is for him to apply these debuffs, for him to give that damage received, give that ultimate damage bonus, which is a pretty big thing for him. And this is something that you really want to make note of, because as we've seen, characters can get stronger as time has gone by. Someone like Topaz and Numbi went from by far one of the above average characters to by far one of the best in terms of being paired up with Jade, being paired up with March 7th, with being paired up with the follow-up team. There's a lot of really good teams that she has now, and she's almost a needed asset right now in the game if you are even looking at the follow-up archetype. Same thing goes for someone like Robin. She was a follow-up only character at the start, and now is getting put on so many different teams in regards to hyper carry when it comes to some really crazy break teams. A lot of people have been diversifying how they're using Robin, and it's just showing that characters can get more worth as time goes by. And of course, this doesn't stop someone like Kafka in the future to be able to get more support, to be able to get more characters that do dots and maybe re-trigger themselves, allowing Kafka to do more damage, allowing the dot team and Holder to do more damage. And we're just going to see characters age more as they have better, more universal kits. And Jiaoqiu is one of those characters. So realistically, if you're fine with taking the gamble in regards to going for Acheron, when you go for Acheron, you're looking at, I'm making her stronger. She's my favorite unit. I'm making her stronger. And I'm any character in the future that really loves their ultimate, I'm gonna make them stronger too. So now you have a character that can be seemingly put on a bunch of different teams in the future, as long as they're more ultimate damage based, which, like I said, isn't a hard thing to ask for. We get a lot of characters who can do a lot of really crazy things with their ultimate, and it's not that hard, in all honesty, to be able to make that happen. You're also not confined to like scalings of any characters, whether they're HP, whether they're defense, whether they're attack, doesn't matter. Ultimate damage and general damage received. That's the cool thing about Jiaoqiu, and he's very universal as an Nihility unit, has how they all have been, which is a really good thing for the game. In all honesty, used to be Harmony Central, now we are looking at a Nihility / Harmony balance in regards to Nihility is a little bit more broad. Nihility is able to do a little bit more when it comes to the general how much can you pack in this character, and then Harmony right now are getting more niche, they're getting more fine-tuned to specific teams, and I think there's a really good way to go when it comes to playing Honkai Star right now. So do you need Jiaoqiu specifically right now? If you're looking for Acheron to get built up better, if you like some ult-based characters like Young Li or like Argenti, that works as well. I think even someone like Jing Yuan could technically work as well, because his ult hits so hard and you're able to get that damage receive buff, which helps out with Lightning Lore, which is a pretty cool thing too. So if you like any of these characters, go ahead and get them. If you really like these characters and you want to build them up a little bit more, then Jiaoqiu could be a really good pickup, because not only are you building them now, you're also able to use them on any other team in the future that is really reliant on ultimate damage. But if you don't like any of these factors, you don't care about the future proofing of ult damage specifically, there always will be substitutes in the future that you could work for that aren't Jiaoqiu. Of course, you have characters that are able to do the same thing, but I guess at a lesser value, which is going to be people like Pela. Pela is a character that is absolutely god tier in what he's able to do or what she's able to do. And Jiaoqiu, although in the same spot, Pela, for those that don't want to invest in another 5-star, is able to do the same. Pela can be that nice substitute for you as well, especially with all that she can do in regards to the defense down when it comes to her being fast, running eagle on her, all that different type of stuff, and also having that light cone with the shines of sweat. We were able to defense it down even more. So there are some substitutes for Jiaoqiu that you don't specifically need to go for him. There's also someone like Silverwolf as well who's able to do the same, but at a lower capacity because it's at less AoE for more centralized damage. So you'll be doing more damage to, let's say, the boss if you ult them, if you skill them. And for someone like Jiaoqiu, well, he gets to take up the entire field or basically those adjacent to the boss, which is going to be a pretty big pickup when it comes to the damage that you're pushing out with someone like Acheron, who is hitting the whole field, which is a pretty big thing. So there are some substitutes when it comes to having Silverwolf, when it comes to having someone like Pela, when it comes to having someone like Black Swan as well. There are a lot of substitutes. There's a lot of different characters that will be able to suffice in a role where you're able to do nihility debuffing and it be pretty substantial in the damage you're going to be doing. It's just Jiaoqiu, a little bit more niche, a little bit more fine-tuned, and I think that's going to be a really cool thing for the game. But other than that, that's it for this video when it comes to talking about Jiaoqiu, current value, future value, best teammates, and also the teammates that probably can replace him if you aren't looking so much into getting him. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. See y'all guys in the next one, and peace.